You're watching Southwest Florida in Focus. Coming up, while hurricane season is just beginning, you might already feel exhausted from the surge in storms to our area these last few years, and you're not alone.
The weather's weird. We might not get it again for years, but I feel like hurricanes like us now.
We explore the changes being made by residents and local governments before the next storm passes by. Staying informed when the power goes out, we're giving you a behind-the-scenes look at how WGCU keeps operating even when the lights go dark. And is it a sunny future for this massive Port Charlotte attraction? We learn more about why the Sunseeker Resort is looking for new ownership. Hello, I'm Sandra Victorova. Thank you for joining us. Hurricane season begins this Sunday, and according to NOAA, there's a 60% chance for an above-average season. The 2025 hurricane forecast issued by Colorado State University predicts 9 hurricanes, with 4 of those storms reaching major hurricane potential. To prepare for severe weather, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office unveiled their new fleet of vehicles to help assist residents after a storm. New boats and elevated vehicles will be able to reach people stranded in flooded areas. Water from Helene and Milton swamped areas like Punta Gorda in the span of 3 weeks, causing chaos to parts of that community. Something emergency officials will look to avoid this coming hurricane season.
We are better prepared than we ever have been. So if we have a wind event, we have a water event, we're prepared. And we're also prepared that if another agency is in need of help, that they get hit, we're ready to respond, and we're not going to be a burden upon them because we're self-sufficient.
Residents and businesses in Punta Gorda are also taking steps to avoid more hurricane harm. As WGCU's Mike Walcher reports, one waterfront community is adapting to cope with what may come from this and future hurricane seasons.
We last saw Roger and Dawn Good walking away from their beloved neighborhood in disgust. Milton's surge of 8 to 10 feet inundated their home of 40 years. Helene had flooded the place just before that. The morning after showed Milton destroyed the Goods' belongings and vehicles and left foul-smelling muck churned up from the bottom of the Gulf.
So we have to make a decision. Do we try to recoup it one more time, or is it the end of our Punta Gorda?
Today, the Goods are overjoyed to be back, living on their landscape property. The inside of the bungalow, built around 1950, has been dried, cleaned, and remodeled. All done by Roger, a tradesman during his career. He did it while the couple lived in a local hotel. They had canceled their homeowners and flood insurance after Ian in 22. Too much money, they claim, for too little in repairs.
Well, the way I see it, we're all strong Americans, and instead of waiting for the government to help you or the insurance company to help you, all this people that are supposed to show up, just roll up your sleeves and get to it.
I moved here when I was 28, no man, no job. I loved Punta Gorda. I was going to die here. I'm 68 now. I want to die here.
People are remaking this paradise by elevating homes. Some are tearing down old homes to build back newer and higher. And some are building on foundations that are 8 to 10 feet above ground level.
My heart is that I really hope that we don't have to go through this scenario again, but we are prepared.
Interim City Manager Melissa Reichert says Punta Gorda installed TideFlex backfill structures under some downtown and nearby streets. That was 17 years ago. Some valves are 12 feet in diameter. Each is supposed to let water flow out of the drainage system and not allow high water to push back in. A city official says corroded valves could have made flooding worse, so the city is spending $31,000 to hire divers to go into the drainage system and check those valves.
They're flowing exactly how they're supposed to be, that they're closing when they're supposed to be closed and that they're open when they're supposed to be open, depending on conditions.
The Celtic Ray Irish pub deployed sandbags last fall, but both storms flooded the inside. Here's the high water mark from Milton, several feet above the floor.
The weather's weird. We might not get it again for years, but I feel like hurricanes like us now.
The owners say they may have a company install movable steel barriers. They would block the front of the building to hopefully stop the next surge. And workers got money from a GoFundMe effort while the place was closed for more than 2 months.
Yeah, this town, this community is great. Everybody always comes together and stuff like this. That's one thing that we can count on.
The city says it is clearing all drains and using cameras to inspect pipes. Some of those may need replacing. And the city manager says workers will plant mangroves along the waterfront to help absorb surge.
Resiliency has been a focus of the city of Punta Gorda for a long time.
Changes are happening fast in the historic section, and Dawn Good is worried. She serves on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board and fears that history could be lost in the rebuild. For now, Roger Good's relaxing, refusing to worry about what's next.
Now it'll prove whether we're dumb or not, depending on how the next storm season goes. If a storm hits north of us, we're in trouble. If it hits south of us, we're fine.
For WGCU News in Punta Gorda, I'm Mike Walcher.
An initial report from divers indicate that Punta Gorda's Tideflex drainage system is working okay, so officials believe the flooding was caused by the powerful storm surges from Ian, Helene, and Milton. As we prepare to enter the 2025 hurricane season, what are local governments doing to prepare for another busy storm season? Well, we are joined now by Lee County's Public Safety Director Ben Abes to find out. Mr. Abes, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we know that Hurricanes Helene and Milton caused certainly easily tens of millions of dollars in damage to our community here in Lee County. What were the lessons learned for your team?
So we're still going through a lot of the important lessons that we can take away from the last storm season. I think, one of the most important things as we go through each season, unfortunately, we've had a series of events here, starting with Ian in 2022, we had Adalia in 2023, and now we've got lessons from Helene and Milton. But what we've been able to see is that we've made incremental improvements after each season. And so a lot of our lessons learned have really been focused on the incremental improvements, how those have worked with each season, and what we can then take away to further improve. So for instance, communication and lessons learned from Ian on how we communicate with the public. We made significant changes. We've taken some lessons. There were improvements in this last hurricane season, how we communicated evacuations and recovery efforts. Those were, I think, more effective, but there's always ways that we can improve.
Why are these new weather stations important? What do they do? And then the tidal gauge sensors.
So if you think about when we get storm warnings, we often get a very broad range of data. So they'll say, 4 to 8 feet or 5 to 9 feet of storm surge along the coast. And one of the things that complicates the ability to forecast and provide much more isolated or local information is the amount of data that's available to inform those models and the decision making. To have the federal government do some of those tidal gauges, those are in some cases many hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single gauge. We were able to partner with a company in Hawaii called Hahonu, and they make a low-cost tidal gauge that actually uses cellular networks and solar power to provide data. We did our first set of those gauges right before Hurricane Helene. We got some really great information from Helene and then installed more right before Hurricane Milton. And working with Hahonu and their scientists, we were able to see exactly how the water moved. If you recall, Hurricane Helene moved off the coast, parallel to the coast, where Milton was a landfalling storm to our north. The trajectory of those two storms being different, we could see the differences and the nuance in how the storms are passing by or impacting our area and what that means to the water rise. And so from a hyperlocal standpoint, if you are on a barrier island, your impacts are very different than, say, if you're in downtown Fort Myers or Cape Coral, or maybe far inland along the Caloosahatchee River or the Orange River or some of the creeks and streams. We're now able to start gathering more data to better understand how the water is going to move in the community. And that helps us provide that data to not only the local community and public dashboards and interfaces, but also the Weather Service, local meteorologists. All of that data is available free of charge.
We know the Trump administration has talked about, reducing bloat and waste and has made cuts to NOAA staff, which of course is critical to forecasting storms. And then of course, there have been cuts made to FEMA, which of course are critical in responding to storms. Do you have concerns about how those cuts could potentially impact Southwest Florida? And is it changing anything that you do and how you do it?
It's not really changing our posture at all. And I think that's one of the misnomers. FEMA, We may have a representative from FEMA in the Emergency Operations Center before a storm hits. We would certainly have one there after a storm impacts. But we are prepared to respond to the needs of the community immediately post-disaster. Whether that's a tornado, whether that's a hurricane, whether that's a wildfire, we are positioned here to be able to respond to those challenges. With regards to the Weather Service, we've got a great partnership with the Weather Service in Tampa Bay, and of course our relationship with the Hurricane Center over in Miami. They are prepared. They're ready to provide the same forecast support and products that they always do. We just had we have an annual meeting with them and all the local meteorologists. That went very well. So I think we're well prepared going into the storm season.
Mr. Abes, we so thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Coming up, the Sunseeker Resort in Charlotte Harbor was supposed to be a beacon for tourism, but now it's looking to be sold a year and a half after opening its doors. When it comes to hurricanes, power outages seem to come with the territory. So when the lights go dark, how can you stay up to date with the latest information? WGCU's Mike Canary brings us a behind-the-scenes look at the steps our team takes to make sure the community knows what's happening before, during, and after any major storm.
Hi there, I'm Mike Canary, a producer and host here at WGCU Public Radio and Public Television. This is Richard Chin-Kui. What's your title exactly, Richard?
I'm the FM station manager here at the station. I watch over our content on the air that isn't reporting.
So we have been through a number of storms together, you and I.
Yeah.
We want to try to pass along some information about, how we track the storms as they may be approaching, and then the things that we do once they do get here. So Florida Public Radio Emergency Network. Explain who they are and what kind of information we're able to get from them.
Yeah, so FPRIN is a network of stations, public stations all across the state. And the headquarters is up at UF. We have a state meteorologist there. And basically, when there are large storms that threaten any part of the state and even a couple other states, they jump into action to cover it and to offer not only on-air content, but also to receive content from those stations in the network so that everybody can kind of get ground level things and then get high-level meteorological news from them.
So based on what a storm is doing, we have different tiers of response. If a storm looks like it might be coming our way, we do one thing. We'll kind of walk through what those tiers are like until we reach a point where we are all hands on deck.
Right. So once we know a storm is likely to impact, let's say, the state in general, we definitely have a meeting as a team to say if this becomes regional for us, if it becomes an impact for our listening area, then who's going to be where. When we get more certainty that it's going to impact part of our listening area, especially a significant part of our listening area, then we kind of shift that from what will we do to when are we doing it? When are people going to be coming to the station? When are people going to be going to the different emergency operation centers, depending on where the storm is going to hit? So once it's making impact in our area, particularly tropical force storm winds in our area, we could go from lighter coverage where we're getting updates from FPRIN to more regular coverage where we're jumping in on breaks, in the regular shows. And we do 10 minutes of content and then we take 10 minutes from FPRIN and then we go again and then they go again. And we do that until the storm has passed our listening area. And during that entire period, which is sometimes 8 hours, we have every other reporter who's available here and outside the building sending any content that they can find to generate to producers who are then funneling that information to me and to you or to our other producers and to John Davis, and we get that on the air as soon as we have it.
This is the broadcast transmission facility for both WGCU radio and television. This tall tower allows us to broadcast to over 10 counties in southwestern and southern Florida on both television and radio. Inside, we have a facility that has a lot of equipment that makes sure it all is possible, and reliability is something that we take very seriously. We have not only backup equipment for both television and radio, that includes transmission facilities, that includes antennas. We also have backup power systems. For example, the generator that's behind me can run for about 5 days without needing to be refueled. We also take maintenance very seriously. We routinely send out staff that keeps up the air conditioning and the power systems, as well as make sure the transmission systems are all working correctly. And we also have a backup facility that's located on the FGCU campus away from here. So in the event that we lose this facility for whatever reason, we're able to continue broadcasting, albeit at a reduced power, but most people would still be able to get the information that we're able to put out on radio. So this is where it all happens, and we take that reliability very, very seriously to make sure that this facility is on the air even during the worst of the storms.
And we have a building-wide generator.
Yes.
During Ian, we did not lose electricity or internet, or our broadcast signal did not go down. I believe the same was true for Helene and Milton. So we have some redundancy in our system, I guess you can say.
We do, and part of the reason that we're so fastidious about making sure we're on the air is because as an LP1 station, it's a designation, the short version is, in the state, there are chunks of counties, and that group of counties designate a station to be, you must stay on the air. It's like the station of last resort. And that doesn't mean last resort for information. It means if everything else is down, they should be on.
And then after the storm has passed, we will send our reporters out when it's safe. We will be in touch with emergency management officials in various jurisdictions. And we will turn Gulf Coast Life, our radio show, over to post-storm coverage to connect people with resources. So we really do have a plan that we have learned through trial and error.
Yeah, it's iterative. Every year we think about last year and we make changes that we hope kind of make that coverage not only easier and more efficient for us, but more impactful for the listener. I know that we've received messages from people saying that, you know, we kept them going through the storm, we saved them in various ways, and we take that seriously. It's I don't know, humbling. It's a big impact to know that we're not just giving people information, but that the action on that information makes life-saving decisions for them.
Well, thank you, Richard, for explaining all that, and thank you for being a partner in this, because we've been through a lot of storms together, and so we, I'm happy to have you as someone who can help keep us and our listeners and viewers safe. And I just want to, suggest to viewers that having some sort of weather radio that you can crank that will work if there is no power, if there is no internet. WGCU and WMKO will stay on the air, so if everything else fails, that's the way to get in touch with us.
When hurricane coverage begins, make sure you dial into 90.1 WGCU FM or 91.7 WMKO. A year and a half after opening its doors, the nearly $700 million Sunseeker Resort in Port Charlotte is up for sale. The USA Today network reports the facility's owner, Allegiant Travel Company, hopes the sale of the 22-acre Charlotte Harbor compound will be finalized by September. We reached out to Allegiant to learn why they're looking to sell, but haven't received a response prior to this recording. So what happened to this struggling resort, and what could a sale mean to the community? With the very latest on the story, we're joined now by Phil Fernandez, In the Know columnist with the USA Today Network. Welcome, Phil, and I'm excited to have you because you've been following this story literally from the very beginning. So help us to understand, why would this resort get sold now? I know Allegiant has spent so years and time and money on this.
Yeah, they've spent millions. I mean, probably close to $700 million with everything that went out there. They've lost their. They're not making the kind of money or the return I think that they'd like to make. They want to return back to their core business, which is the airlines. At the time when they did this, they had different leadership, a different CEO who was like, hey, let's diversify, because it's a very unusual thing for them to do in the industry. But it hasn't had the occupancy. People have talked about pricing and location are some of the challenges out there.
So occupancy rates, I mean, what are they looking like?
Well, yeah, last year they opened around Christmas of 2023. Pretty much all of last year they were trying to get above 40%, which is quite low in the industry. Toward the end of the year they got to about 55%. And then this first quarter they were very excited to get to 70%. But now the forecast is talking about mid-50s for the second quarter.
So from the very beginning, Sunseeker had a lot of obstacles. Let's talk about that first. Construction delays. Yeah,
the construction delays, I mean, they have been trying to get this going, for 6 years or so. They ran into COVID. We had the supply chain issues. And then, just the hurricanes. They just kept coming. I mean, the damage from the hurricanes alone was probably over $40 billion. So it really, really slowed them down. It was just a lot of hurdles to get over.
For Allegiant, this was really unique, an airline taking on a resort, right? I mean, this was risky.
Yeah, it really was. There were a lot of questions about it early on. Is this what, Allegiant really wanted to do? They, at the time, obviously were the low-cost flight type airlines. But they saw opportunities with Punta Gorda. That was one of their hot destinations. And I think they foresaw a potential future to say, hey, maybe we can go into lodging and entertainment. And in fact, when you would talk with company folks, they would remind you that, hey, we're now the Allegiant Travel Company, that's what they wanted to be referred to. But that was, like I say, a different leadership. And I think with the challenges that are going on out there, they're like, you know what, our investors, the stock market, they kind of want us to stay into the core.
Do we have any idea who they might be, trying to sell to?
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, obviously. They've got to make the property, something that an investor might be interested in. Would it be in the lodging industry? They're trying to show that, hey, maybe we can grow this with business travel. That's kind of an area that they've been talking about recently that, hey, I think this could be an opportunity that way. But there are challenges there because they're competing with more established areas like, Naples, Fort Myers, and Sarasota. And it's not that close to a beach. It's like 45 minutes to a beach. And when people come to Florida, the beach is kind of one of the main, destinations.
I know in your reporting you mentioned that, regardless of whether they're trying to at least get out of having a majority stake in this, so whether they sell completely or just partially, Allegiant is going to be staying in Charlotte County and will have a significant impact on the economic growth of Charlotte County.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much built Punta Gorda Airport. I mean, that airport, there was not that much going on there prior to 2012, prior to Allegiant's arrival. I mean, the economic impact with Allegiant there has gone from like 150 million to 1.5 billion annually, which is just astounding numbers to do that in a matter of a dozen years. They're flying to over 50 destinations. Like I said, this is a hot spot for them. So there is this very strong relationship between Charlotte County and Allegiant. So I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Phil Fernandez, thank you so much for your reporting on this. And to continue following your reporting, we can check out the News Press or the Naples Daily News. Thank you.
Please do. Thank you.
Thanks. Coming up, it is tortoise time at the Naples Zoo, the new experience that gets you up close and personal with one of nature's most popular critters. The Naples Zoo has become a great place to get in touch with your wild side. The facility's Primate Expedition Cruise was recently named one of the 10 best zoo exhibits in the country by USA Today. And now guests can get hands-on with a new program designed to inspire future conservationists. WGCU's Carrie Barber explains.
Oh, you're so cute.
The Bud family is taking advantage of a new opportunity at the Naples Zoo.
So our tortoise encounter involves going behind the scenes in with our Galapagos tortoise. Her name is Poppy, and she loves people and loves interacting with them.
Part of the encounter is to target train Poppy. A red ball on a wand is waved near the 100-pound tortoise. When she reacts to it, Poppy's rewarded with fresh veggies. The staff estimates Poppy's age at about 8 to 12 years old, but they can't be sure because she was rescued from an illegal smuggling operation at the Port of Miami. She was brought to the Naples Zoo as a much younger tortoise.
And as long as she keeps her neck up with this finch response, you are welcome to pet the bottom of her neck here as well.
Really?
Yep, but just with hands on that one.
Oh my goodness.
The goal for Wild Encounters is to educate visitors about tortoises, their habitat, and their welfare. And Poppy gets to socialize with families like the Buds.
Good.
James Budd says his daughter Bonnie is a big fan of turtles.
I mean, she talks about turtles all the time. Like, we go to a serpentarium near our house, and the turtles are the things that have always drawn her in.
And they learned a new fact through their Wild Encounter with Poppy.
I didn't know they could feel through their shells. That's kind of cool.
For WGCU News, I'm Carrie Barber with Amanda Inscore-Whittemore.
As the rain returns to Southwest Florida, so do the mosquitoes. Coming up next week, we learn about the new methods being put in place to keep the pesky bugs away from your summer plans. Join us for that story and much more next week. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our WGCU News YouTube channel, where you can find all of our stories and extended interviews. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.